Tonight, Washington didn't just argue. Washington fractured. What happened inside the United States Capitol a few hours ago was not routine politics. It wasn't partisan gridlock, and it definitely wasn't business as usual. It was rebellion. For the first time in Donald Trump's second presidency, he didn't merely face opposition. He faced defiance from inside his own governing coalition. And the moment it happened, everyone in Washington understood instantly that something historic had just occurred. The gavel fell inside the House of Representatives, but the echo reached the White House. The vote, 219 to 211, numerically close, politically explosive. Because tonight, the United States Congress stepped in to stop the President of the United States from launching an economic confrontation with America's closest ally, Canada. In an era where Congress struggles to agree on naming post offices, 219 lawmakers united to halt a trade war. That alone tells you this wasn't normal legislation. This was an intervention. 6 Republicans crossed party lines. Not commentators, not former officials, not political opponents. Sitting members of Congress from competitive districts, the type of districts that decide national elections. Kevin Kiley of California, Thomas Massie of Kentucky, Don Bacon of Nebraska, Dan Newhouse of Washington, Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, Jeff Hurd of Colorado. These lawmakers didn't suddenly change ideology. They changed calculation. They studied fuel prices. They studied construction costs. They studied farm exports. And they concluded something remarkable. Angering the president was politically survivable. Bankrupting their voters was not. And in modern American politics, that's a seismic shift. The president tried to stop the rebellion. As the vote unfolded, he issued a direct warning to his party. A message posted publicly. Republicans who vote against tariffs would face consequences during elections. That threat has shaped American politics for years. Primary challenges, funding withdrawals, public criticism. Normally, it works. Tonight, it failed. The message didn't move votes, which revealed something deeper than a trade disagreement. It revealed fatigue inside the system. For months, the administration had escalated pressure on Canada using National Security Trade Authority, Section 232. The threat, sweeping tariffs on Canadian goods. First 25%, then discussion of a universal tariff, and finally, the possibility of 100% penalties tied to international trade alignments. The assumption behind the strategy was simple. Canada would retreat quickly. Historically, economic threats forced negotiations. But this time, the reaction was different. Canada didn't panic. Canada prepared. Prime Minister Mark Carney approached the confrontation unlike traditional political leaders. He didn't respond emotionally. He didn't escalate rhetoric. He didn't perform outrage. Because he isn't primarily a political operator. He's a financial systems operator. Former head of the Bank of Canada, former head of the Bank of England. His expertise is not campaigning. It is risk management. While Washington debated messaging, Ottawa calculated outcomes. Over the previous 3 days, Canadian officials contacted American governors and lawmakers directly. No public threats, no press conferences, only numbers. They presented district-level economic impact projections, manufacturing disruptions in Michigan, energy price increases in Pennsylvania, agricultural losses in the Midwest. The message was simple. This trade conflict wouldn't damage Canada first. It would damage specific American communities immediately. And suddenly the vote in Congress wasn't theoretical. It was personal. Inside Ottawa's strategy rooms, the focus wasn't national politics. It was local politics. Maps used by negotiators showed U.S. congressional districts, not Canadian provinces. Officials identified which representatives would face the fastest economic backlash. They didn't lobby ideology. They highlighted consequences. This wasn't diplomatic confrontation. It was economic persuasion, and it worked. Before the vote, Representative Don Bacon summarized the concern clearly. Tariffs function as taxes paid by domestic consumers. That argument changed the debate. The question stopped being about trade dominance. It became about household costs. Lawmakers began evaluating immediate impacts: fuel prices, housing materials, food supply chains, and the coalition fractured. For years, the administration's negotiating model relied on unpredictability, sometimes called strategic pressure. Escalate quickly, force urgency, secure concessions. It has produced results in past negotiations, but only when the opposing side seeks rapid de-escalation. Canada chose a different route: reduce dependency, expand alternative trade, delay reaction. By removing urgency, the leverage weakened. During the standoff, Canada pursued additional international agreements to diversify markets. The signal was subtle but important. Canada was preparing for a prolonged dispute rather than a short negotiation. That changed risk perception in Washington. If tariffs no longer guaranteed quick concessions, the strategy lost reliability. The core political fear wasn't diplomatic tension. It was domestic price pressure. Canada supplies major portions of U.S. energy imports and industrial materials. Interruptions could raise gas prices, construction costs, food transportation costs. For many lawmakers, the economic risk outweighed the political risk, and that's why the vote happened. This vote did not end the conflict. The measure still moves to the Senate. Even if approved, a presidential veto remains possible. But the significance lies elsewhere. It proved the president's negotiating position now faces internal limits. Future threats carry less certainty, and negotiation power depends heavily on credibility. The dispute may now shift away from legislation toward administration. Border inspections, customs delays, regulatory enforcement, none require new laws. All influence trade flow, which means the confrontation could continue in slower, less visible ways. For decades, U.S. economic pressure operated with predictable alignment between branches of government. Tonight introduced ambiguity. Allies observed institutional independence. Rivals observed political division. Markets observed uncertainty. And uncertainty reshapes global negotiation behavior. This wasn't a victory lap for either country. It was a strategic pause. The United States demonstrated institutional constraint. Canada demonstrated strategic patience. Neither side surrendered, but both adjusted. And that adjustment changes every future negotiation between them. Now we want your perspective. Did Congress protect economic stability or undermine executive authority? Did Canada defend itself or challenge American leverage? Tell us below, because this story isn't ending tonight. It's evolving. And the next move may not come from a speech. It may come from the border. Subscribe and stay with us for continuing coverage.